Everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be doing a very belated mid-year freakout. This is one of the most popular tags on BookTube, and ever since I started my channel, I've been looking forward to doing this video. So just pretend that it's on time and not nearly a month late. It's fine. But yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to go through the tag questions. And then I think I'll probably go through some of my book goals, which I shared in my book goals video at the beginning of the year, and just see kind of how I'm doing, if I'm on track, and what tweaks I might need to make in the second half of the year. Little disclaimer, my life has been a little bit crazy at the moment and I haven't been the most organized with BookTube stuff, so there are quite a few books that I'm going to talk about in this video that I haven't published a video for yet. All of the books I'm reading are in videos. It's just I either have read it and haven't filmed it yet, or have filmed it and haven't edited it yet. So I apologize in advance. The video will be up eventually, but for now you get like a little sneak peek. So let's get into it. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? In classic me fashion, I cannot decide on just one book, so I'm going to talk about the couple of favorites so far, but Piranesi by Susanna Clarke has definitely got to be up there. This is like a random book that I picked up and have been loving. I've not been able to stop thinking about it. I already want to reread it. It was just a phenomenal book. It's about a man who's in this mystical house that has like all these beautiful large hallways with marble statues, and he is like cataloging his experience and exploring the house, and the way that he shows appreciation to the house for caring for him is by cataloging the house. And he has this other kind of companion who has a different mission, so they kind of rely on each other a little bit, but it's about Piranesi kind of figuring out what's going on, really. It's one of those books where you're trying to get thrown in, but I really don't want to say much because it's such a difficult book to describe, but it's such a wonderful experience if you go in blind. But I would highly recommend that one. Another one of my favorites was The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. This has been on my TBR for a couple of years, and I knew I was going to love this. It's a retelling set in Victorian England, and it's like a fantasy mystery. What I didn't know is it also incorporates Sherlock Holmes and Watson, so I loved it. But it has like tie-ins to Frankenstein, to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, just all kinds of different fantastical retellings, and I just absolutely love this book. I've been reading a lot more nonfiction this year, and one of my favorite nonfictions from the year so far has been 102 Minutes by Jim Dwyer. This is an account of the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers and kind of blends victim accounts with like the structural reasons why certain things happened, and a lot of like the technical nitty-gritty stuff that went kind of behind the scenes to how the event went the way that it did. I really liked this a lot more than I was expecting. It was really dense, but it was just, I found it so interesting, and I think he really handled it in a lovely way, and that the tone and kind of the seriousness and heaviness of the topic was really conveyed well. And the last of my one favorite book was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I was a little bit apprehensive to pick up this series, even though I loved her other two series, because I'm not an urban fantasy person, but I loved this book. I can't wait to continue the series, so I was very pleasantly surprised, and I just kind of read it at a good time. It really hit me kind of in the place where it's supposed to, but I really enjoyed it. The next question is, what is your favorite sequel from the first half of the year? There are none that really wow me, but I think it would have to be The Murder at the Leaning Tower by T.A. Williams. This is another installment in the Dan and Oscar Cozy Mystery series, which follows an English ex-policeman, Dan, and his dog, Oscar. And he moved to Italy and has started his own private detective agency and just kind of gets caught up in stuff. It's such like a cozy mystery. The settings are always so fun, and I just listened to them on an audiobook. So I think he's written 2 already this year. So he just churns them out and I listen to them. But definitely nothing groundbreaking, but they're always really fun. And if you're looking for a new kind of cozy mystery series, I would highly recommend it. The next question is there a new release that you haven't read yet but are really excited to? There's only one book that instantly springs to mind, which I actually only found out about like a couple of days ago, and that is from my other favorite cozy mystery writer, Ian Moore. He writes a very similar kind of style of mystery, which is an English guy who is in France. He owns a B&B and he ends up like falling into solving mysteries. So there's a new one in that series, and I thought it was finished, so I am ecstatic. I cannot wait to read that. I try and kind of pace myself out with his books because he does not write nearly as quickly as T.A. Williams, but it's another one that I love, and I listen to them on audiobook, and they're just so much fun, so I can't wait to read that. Jessa Hastings is another author that I love. She wrote the Magnolia Park series, which is phenomenal, and she wrote 2 books that have come out this year. Conditions of Will, which I honestly have no idea what it's about, but I'm looking forward to reading that. And then Time of Our Lives, Time of My Life, which does just seem like an Oasis fan fiction, but I do love Oasis, so I'm kind of here for that. But I'm looking forward to reading both of those. And then the last one that I'm looking forward to reading is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I think this is like a Jane Austen retelling, kind of in like a Clueless vibe, that it's not super heavily based on it, but it's like a modern retelling. So I'm excited to read all of these books. I'm not sure if they'll actually get read this year, but I am very excited to read them. The next question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? So I'm really not someone that reads books as they come out anymore. I tend to like, especially with series and authors I'd like to pace myself. So I'm going to be saying these with a grain of salt because I'm definitely not going to read them this year. There's a good chance I won't even read them next year, but I am excited for them to come out. So the first one is The Killer Question by Janice Hallett. I read The Appeal and The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett at the end of last year and loved them. So I'm really excited to read more from her. She has, I think, 2 or 3 other books out that are already out. But I'm excited to get to The Killer Question as well whenever that comes out. The other book I'm really excited for that's coming out in the second half of this year is the 5th installment in the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman, which is The Impossible Fortune. I believe this is number 5. I'm definitely not up to date with this series, so I'm definitely not going to be reading this anytime soon, but I'm still excited that it's going to be coming out and that I'm going to have even more to read through. The next question is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? I'd have to say one of my biggest disappointments of the year so far would be the Finley Donovan by El Cosimano series. I loved the first and second books when this came out, but as it's gone on, like Finley did not need to keep going. Her life and the complications have gotten crazier and crazier, and it's too unrealistic now, and I can't keep up. So it started off as Finley was an author, and she's a single mom, and she was like talking to her agent about her next murder mystery. Someone overhears her and thinks she's a hit woman and gives her someone to kill. So like that was really fun. It was a really interesting premise, but I think we're up to book 5 now, and it's just too many. Finley needs to hang up her boots. So I don't think I'm going to be continuing with that series, but it was definitely a letdown because I did really enjoy the characters before. Another book that was really disappointing was A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the sequel to A Tale So Dark and Lonely, the second in the Cursebreaker trilogy. I enjoyed the first one of the Cursebreaker trilogy more than I was expecting to for like a YA fantasy, but this fell off. I hated the second book. I found it so boring, and yeah, I definitely won't be continuing with the series, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't super hyped for that book, especially because I read the first one this year, but the first one kind of really pleasantly surprised me and made me excited to continue. So I was really bummed that the second one didn't live up. I really should have had the worst sequels of the year rather than the best sequels of the year as a question because most of those were sequels, but anyway, the next question is, what was your biggest surprise so far? I'd have to say all of Gillian Flynn's books that I read earlier this year. They were so dark and twisted, and she has such an incredible mind for these insane stories, and they were really well written. And I read Gone Girl a couple of years ago and didn't love it, so I didn't have super high expectations, but I loved the rest of her work, so I was really pleasantly surprised by those. The other big surprise for me this year was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This was something I read after I read The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter because it's kind of a short little classic. I've been wanting to read more classics this year, and I had already been wanting to read that book, but after reading like the retelling, I kind of wanted to get a little bit more context. I loved it. If you're looking to get into classics and just want something short and fun, I would highly recommend it. It's a little bit wacky, but the humor is hilarious. The writing style was just so much fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. I also talked about this earlier, but Piranesi was definitely a surprise book because I had no intention of reading it. I just ended up picking it up, and it's now one of my favorite books. So definitely love that book. The next question is, who is your favorite new author? Either a debut author or an author that's new to you. I'm going to break both of those rules and say Lisa Jewell. I did read one of her books last year, but I read 3 more of hers this year, and that cemented her as my favorite thriller writer. She is just fantastic. That woman knows how to write a character. All of her characters feel so real, her stories feel so fleshed out, and I really like that they aren't super fantastical. Like, all of her stories feel like it could be something that happens to you. So they're realistic while still having kind of crazy twists. So I absolutely love her. I can't wait to read through the rest of her work. Another one that's kind of the exact opposite is Lucy Foley. She is also a thriller writer, but is a little bit more fantastical. Her characters feel a little bit more like archetypes, which I also love. It's just very different. I had read The Paris Apartment a couple of years ago, and it was okay, but I had been really excited to read The Guest List, and I read The Guest List and then the rest of her work and loved it. So she was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to her new release. The next question is, what is a book that made you cry? I read Pillow Thoughts 2 by Courtney Pepperell, which is a poetry collection relating to like love, heartbreak, healing, all that kind of thing. And yeah, that made me like sob my eyes out. Definitely kind of right book, right time thing. But yeah, I'm not really a book crier, but this book definitely like hit me in the feels. But I don't know if it really counts because poetry is kind of supposed to do that. But it was really, really good. And I was kind of my introduction into poetry. So if you're looking for poetry books and you're wanting to get into poetry, I would highly recommend Courtney Pepperell. She's very accessible and just kind of writes very not broadly, but there's going to be something that applies to everyone in all of her books. The other book that made me cry was Crescent City. Again, it hit me at the right time kind of thing, and it wasn't nearly like Pillow Thoughts, but just kind of like a teary moment. But once you stick with a character for 800 pages, you're gonna shed a tear when they get through some stuff. I think as well because I was sleep deprived. If you guys haven't seen, I read that whole book in like a weekend and vlogged the whole thing. But it was, yeah, I was very sleep deprived. But it was a fantastic book. So I'm not going to say that I only cried because I was sleep deprived, but probably a little bit. The next question is, what is a book that made you happy? I'm going to also have to say Pillow Thoughts 2 by Courtney Pepperell. There was some very smiley moments in that as well as Crescent City, because, you just overcome stuff or the characters overcome stuff, not me. I was just sitting there reading, but I'm reading about them overcoming stuff, and it makes you happy as well. And then all my T.A. Williams, anything I read by him always makes me smile. And then I read A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. That's like a fun new Sherlock Holmes retelling, and I loved that. That was a lot of fun. So I really did kind of have a happy year so far with all of my my reading. The prettiest book you bought this year? This is kind of tricky because one, I'm kind of on a book buying ban, so I'm trying not to buy too many books. So the only books I do buy are really pretty books. The star of today's video, Piranesi, is definitely one of the most stunning books. Half the reason I got it was because it's such a pretty blue and has like beautiful gold foil. I also got all these really nice Jane Austen books from Barnes and Noble, like special edition. They're all stunning. And then I also think Never by Jessa Hastings is a really, really pretty book. It was on sale, so I got that as well, but a big portion of that was just because it had a really pretty cover. The last question is, what books do I want to read by the end of the year? This is such a stupid question because I have all of the books I want to read this year. Everything on my TBR. More seriously, I'm not going to name them all, but I would like to be able to finish most of my physical TBR. I have bought quite a few new books, like one of those Jane Austens. And I think since doing a lot of my read and release series where I'm reading through my physical TBR, I've kind of realized that I burnt through a lot of authors really quickly or genres. So I don't want to do that. Like, I think I kind of sacrificed not my enjoyment because I still enjoyed the books, but it would be nice to be able to read them a little bit more spaced out and kind of switch between different types of books. So I do want to read more of my physical TBR and kind of tick off a few more there. And then I really want to focus on my Kindle TBR because that was another big goal for this year, and I have not really made a big dent in that. So the second half of the year, I'm going to be kind of focusing more on my Kindle TBR. I was kind of planning on doing like mid-year freakout and checking in on my book goals, but this video is already really long. So the only book goal I'm going to check in on is my like how many books I've done this year. So at the start of the year when I did my reading goals for the year, I mentioned that I wanted to read 50 books, and then like halfway through the year, once I kind of caught up, I would change it because I like the positive reinforcement. So even though I've had some of my worst reading months this year, January I didn't read very much. I don't think I read very much in June. I've still managed to read 41 of the 50 books I wanted to read, which is fantastic. So I think in the second half of the year, as kind of my life hopefully returns to normal, I'll be able to read some more. So I'm definitely going to be upping it to 75 books, and I might even up it to 100. We will see. But for now, I'm going to up it to 75. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and you enjoyed this fun book tag. I'd love to hear kind of how you guys are doing in your reading for the year, if you're reading how you want it to be, if you're hitting your book goals, whatever they may be, some of your favorite books of the year so far, any recommendations you have for me for the second half. I would love to hear all of it in the comments below. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in another video soon. Bye!